There are moments in life that feel like destiny itself is standing still, holding its breath, waiting for two souls to collide. This is one of those moments. Fateful moment. Tu Diem says what CEO Toan has been waiting for. For so long, CEO Toan's heart carried an unspoken longing, a hope that seemed too fragile to voice, yet too powerful to silence. Every glance, every silence, every sacrifice led to this instant. And now, Tu Diem has finally gathered the courage to speak the words he has been yearning to hear. Tu Diem finally confesses. But is this love the salvation they both desperately seek? Or could it be the beginning of another tragedy? As past scars echo in their hearts, and the weight of destiny looms over them, this confession may become the turning point, where love either heals or breaks them once again. The night was heavy with silence, broken only by the sound of rain tapping softly against the window. In that quiet room, Toan stood still, his heart pounding with a storm that words could never fully carry. For months he had waited, endured pain, and searched for the fragile truth hidden behind Tu Diem's trembling eyes. Tu Diem sat across from him, her fingers twisting nervously in her lap. Her life had been nothing but shadows, betrayal, loss, and the haunting fear of being sold, abandoned, forgotten. Yet in Toan's presence, a warmth had grown, something she had never dared to name. Tonight, however, her silence was no longer strong enough to hide it. Toan, her voice was faint, but it struck him harder than any storm. She lifted her gaze, tears shimmering like broken stars. I cannot keep it inside anymore. I love you. For a heartbeat, the world seemed to stop. The powerful CEO, who had stood tall against enemies, corporate betrayals, and even death itself, felt his knees weaken. This was the moment he had longed for, the confession that could heal his restless soul. A smile trembled on his lips, but beneath it lay fear, too. Because love, in their world, was not simply salvation. It was also a curse. Toan stepped closer, his voice deep, unsteady with emotion. Diem, do you know what this means? If you choose me, you will stand against everything, the pain of your past, the enemies waiting in the shadows, even my own family's doubts. Are you ready for that? Tu Diem closed her eyes, her tears falling freely now. I am not strong, Toan. I don't know if I can endure what is coming, but I know one thing: I cannot live another day pretending I don't love you. And so, in that fragile, fateful moment, their souls met in truth, yet outside, unseen by them, the storm was still raging, and storms, once they break, can bring either renewal or devastation. Under the golden glow of the setting sun, Toan guided Tu Diem into the quiet garden behind his family's new home. The air was fresh, filled with the faint fragrance of jasmine, and for a moment, it felt like the world had paused to listen to their hearts. Tu Diem walked slowly, her fingers brushing the petals of the flowers, her eyes distant but trembling with unspoken emotions. Toan, she whispered, her voice fragile yet determined. I've been running away for too long. Running from the past, from fear, from myself. But now, I cannot deny it anymore. Toan froze, every nerve in his body tightening. For months, he had longed to hear these words that could either heal the wounds inside him or break him forever. He turned to face her, searching her eyes, afraid to breathe. Tu Diem's eyes glistened with tears as she took a step closer. I love you, Toan. I've loved you since the day you reached out your hand when I was drowning in darkness. I tried to bury it, to deny it, but my heart, it belongs to you. For a second, silence filled the garden. The sound of crickets, the wind through the trees, even Toan's heartbeat seemed to fade away. Then, without hesitation, He pulled her into his arms, holding her as though he would never let go again. "I've been waiting for this moment," Toan murmured against her hair, his voice shaking with relief and joy. "I don't care about your past, your scars, or the pain you carry. All I want is you, Tu Diem, only you." Her tears spilled freely, but this time, they were not of sorrow, they were of release. For the first time in years, Tu Diem felt safe, seen, and truly loved. Yet, in the shadows beyond the garden walls, someone watched, a figure cloaked in bitterness and resentment. Their eyes burned with rage as they clenched their fists, whispering, "This love, it will not last. If I cannot destroy him, then I will destroy her." The night air hung heavy with silence after Tu Diem's trembling confession. For a long moment, CEO Toan did not move. His heart seemed to forget how to beat. He had waited endlessly for this truth, and now, hearing her voice speak it, he felt as though the universe itself had finally given him permission to breathe again. "Diem," his voice was low, almost breaking. "Do you realize what these words mean to me?" Tu Diem lowered her eyes, afraid to meet his gaze. "I don't know if I deserve to love you. My past is full of wounds, shame, and fear. But I can't keep it inside anymore. You have been in my heart from the moment you protected me, even when I felt unworthy of anyone's kindness." Toan stepped closer, his hands trembling, but his tone carried unshakable strength. "Diem, it doesn't matter where you came from or what you endured. What matters is who you are now. And to me you are everything." Her tears fell freely, each drop a release of years of pain she had kept buried. Toan gently wiped them away, whispering, "Your scars do not define you. They make you the woman who saved me, who gave me hope when I was lost. Let me be the one to protect you from now on." But before Tu Diem could answer, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed from the hallway. A knock at the door shattered the fragile intimacy between them. Toan's assistant Than entered with a face pale and tense. "Sir," he said quickly, glancing nervously at Tu Diem, "we have a problem. Someone has been watching the house. I believe it's connected to Diem's past, and they are getting closer." Toan's jaw tightened, his protective instincts igniting instantly. He placed himself in front of Tu Diem, shielding her as though danger was already inside the room. "Diem," he whispered firmly, "no matter what happens, I will not let them take you away from me. Not now, not ever." Her heart pounded painfully in her chest. The confession she had finally given, the truth she had feared for so long, was already colliding with the storm she could not escape. For Tu Diem and CEO Toan, this was more than a confession of love. It was the moment fate decided whether their bond would save them, or destroy them. The following days unfolded with an air of fragile tenderness between Toan and Tu Diem. Every glance they exchanged seemed to carry unspoken promises, and every silence felt alive with emotions too heavy for words. Yet, beneath the surface of their newfound closeness, an invisible shadow lingered, a reminder that the world around them was far from forgiving. Toan, despite his strong will, could not ignore the subtle threats circling his life. Business rivals had grown restless, and whispers of betrayal within his company grew louder. He often spent long hours in his study, reading documents with furrowed brows, while Tu Diem quietly prepared tea for him. Watching him fight battles he never spoke of broke her heart. One evening, as the rain poured heavily against the windows, Toan finally confided in her. "Diem," his voice was low but steady, "someone close to me has been trying to destroy everything I built. I can fight them, but what worries me most is that they may use you to hurt me." Tu Diem froze, the teacup trembling in her hands. Memories of the cruel past, her forced marriage, her mother-in-law's threats, and the nights of fear came rushing back. She had thought she had escaped that torment, but now it seemed destiny had placed her in the middle of another storm. "Toan," she whispered, "if I stay by your side, will I bring more danger to you?" Toan crossed the room in 2 steps, gently holding her shoulders. His eyes, dark yet burning with sincerity, met hers. "You are not my weakness, Diem," he said firmly. "You are my strength. I don't want you to leave me again. Whatever comes, we will face it together." Tears welled up in her eyes, not from fear, but from the overwhelming warmth of his words. For the first time, she allowed herself to lean against him, resting her head on his chest. His heart was racing, and she realized it beat for her. Yet outside, the storm raged on, and in the darkness beyond their walls, unseen eyes were watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. It was the beginning of a love story, yes, but perhaps also the beginning of a tragedy neither of them could yet imagine. In the story of Tu Diem and Toan, we witness how love is never simple, but always intertwined with sacrifice, trust, and courage. Their journey teaches us that true connection is not built in moments of comfort, but in storms of hardship. Tu Diem had endured betrayal, fear, and loneliness, yet she still found the strength to confess her heart to Toan. Her courage showed that even the most wounded soul can open again when touched by genuine kindness. For Toan, who had everything in the eyes of society, wealth, power, and status, the meaning of life only became clear when he nearly lost the one person who gave him hope. His loyalty to Tu Diem reveals that love is not about possession or pride, but about choosing to stand by someone even when the world doubts them. He was willing to trade fortune and comfort, simply to protect her and to keep her safe. The lesson we learn is that love cannot be measured by what we gain, but by what we are willing to give. Sometimes, the most fateful moment in life is not about success or failure, but about daring to say the words hidden in our hearts before it is too late. Tu Diem's confession was not just an act of love, it was an act of liberation, both for herself and for Toan. We are reminded that in our own lives, we should not be afraid to express what truly matters. Silence can preserve safety, but it also builds regret. Love, when spoken with honesty, has the power to heal old wounds and build new beginnings. And even if the road ahead is uncertain, it is better to walk it hand in hand, rather than let fear steal the chance of happiness.